Hi everyone, good evening. So I'm
Hello.
Chani and welcome to the CISO mentoring platform. So just to give you a quick introduction about CISO, it's an open give back platform to get more people into cybersecurity, build the skill gap, diversity gap and leadership gap. And we work towards training and empowering a new generation of diverse and emotionally intelligent cybersecurity leaders to the talent pool. And the current structure of CISO is the 5-day boot camp, then the quarterly meetups and monthly mentoring calls. So this is one of the monthly mentoring calls that we host every third Tuesday of the month, and everyone is welcome to join. So today we got two lovely speakers. The topic is going to be around what separates a hacker from a criminal, and it's having that solid values and ethics combined with emotional intelligence. So we're going to talk about pen testing, security research, hackers, criminals, and ethics, all these things. So I got Didar with me and Clive and Chris joining us today. So I would like to ask first Chris to introduce yourself and tell us your background, how you came to do what you do today, and what are your current projects, a little bit about you and some hobbies that you have, things interesting. I'm sure all of them are interesting because I'm dying to hear your story.
I started out pretty young, getting into digital security. I have the fortune of having family members who were in the STEM fields, ranging from NASA to intelligence agencies to my mother was a robotics programmer on car manufacturing assembly lines. And I think you had a very good point of describing what separates you from being a criminal hacker and a nice hacker. When I was 10 years old, I got busted for breaking into parts of the Department of Justice and FBI, and I was not emotionally ready at that point in time to be fooling around with technology the way I was. So when I was 18 and I could use a computer again, because I was under certain orders, I couldn't touch a computer. I went into the U.S. Air Force, who recruited me, and got to learn a whole bunch of stuff from both the military perspective, but also it allowed me to emotionally grow up quite a bit with the different challenges that I faced with two different careers in the Air Force. My first was a military aviator, and my second was dealing with command and control systems for Space Command. So currently I'm an ethical hacker, and I also like to talk to people about that big difference between a certain code of ethics that good hackers have versus those who are not so good hackers. I'm currently working on a project with Cybrary to teach several courses, one of which is an introduction to industrial control systems and how important they are to our everyday lives. For instance, the electricity that we're all experiencing is down to lots of different ICS SCADA systems, and we've been able to bring a lot of things to scale because of those. So an introduction into the ethical hacking portion for people who have to work at various different types of companies, such as electricity, water, pharmaceutical. All of these different types of organizations have manufacturing involved with them. And my hobbies are mainly just technology, yes.
Cool. You're on mute, Chani.
Yes. Okay. I think I should stop using the button and then use this. So Didar, do you want to introduce yourself? She's my lovely moderator. She's been volunteering for CISO and helping us. So I would like you to introduce yourself, Didar.
Of course. So I'm Didar Gelici. I've been in information security in the governance, risk and compliance space for the last 10 years. Yeah, and I'm helping Chani with the mentoring calls, and I'm also quite active in other InfoSec communities around London. I really like volunteering. That's what I can say about me. I need to give a disclaimer that anything I say is my own opinions, not of my employers. So, yeah. And I'm really, really happy to be joined by two CEOs today. Chris and Clive. Chris is the CEO for Hyperspace. Sorry, can you tell us about your company a little bit as well, Chris?
Sure, it's called Hyperspace, and it's a convergence of two different things. The name Hypatia, which was the first known documented mathematician from basically what we could say is the University of Alexandria back in the day, and security.
Very good, thank you. And we have Clive, who is the CEO of Meta Defense Labs, who are the sponsors of CISO Exec. He is a frequent speaker at CISO Exec events and an advisory member. He is also a founding member and the treasurer of ISC Square London chapter, which is probably one of the biggest chapters in Europe. And we would like to hear a bit about you as well, Clive.
So, can you hear me okay there? Okay, good. Just checking because the signal's dropping out a bit here for me. So I took a bit of a long path into cybersecurity and ethical hacking. And I finished high school there. I wanted to do something with computers, but there was no course that was for computers in the country at the time. So I had to go do electrical engineering. And that was the closest I could get to that. So studied that, and there was some few little bits of digital elements and some PLC programming, that kind of stuff. And then got my first job there, which was purely electrical engineering. And my first job there, as the new guy, I got put in charge of looking after the network there, and found myself doing more and more on the network and less of what my actual job was there. So I left that job and got another one, which was just with computers, exactly like I wanted. And then left South Africa and moved to UK. Been here now, I think 23 years. And no, sorry, 19 years. And tried various things there with hosted managed service support, and eventually ended up forming a company with a friend and Chani, and we decided we want to do security from the ground up, not just a tick box exercise at the end, because that seemed to be what everyone was doing at the time, which was really annoying us. Sometimes you have to redo the whole project again because you just couldn't pry security into it properly. And yeah, from there, learned more, went more and more onto I'm really enjoying that a lot, and done a few courses on that now, and that's where I am now. Thanks.
Great, thank you for that. I want to remind all our participants that if they have any questions, you can use the chat window on Zoom. I will keep an eye on there. If it's an urgent questions, I will ask it to the speakers. If not, we will have some time at the end to cover them. Chani?
Thanks, Didar. So today, seems to be forgetting things I should be doing. So if I say anything odd, just ignore me, guys. I'm really on 100% holiday mode. So thanks for the introduction, Clive and Chris. I got some questions for you guys. So I'll start with about hobbies. What are your hobbies, Clive? You didn't mention about the hobbies.
My hobbies. Okay, yeah. So I used to do a lot of gaming on the computers, and that's actually how I originally found that I quite like hacking, because I would hack the game to get more gold or more lives or whatever. I'm sure a lot of people came that route, and yeah, it's sort of developed from there. I also do a lot of like skateboarding, inline skating, water skiing, that kind of thing. Yep.
Thanks. What about you, Chris? What do you do at your spare time?
I mainly do a lot of stuff with different types of technology, read a lot of papers, create bits of technology and scripts. So my main hobby is really technology.
Sure. Didar, do you want to start the questions?
Yeah. So, Clive, I'll start with Clive. I have a question. I see lots of acronyms after your name, but one of them is CHFI, which I understand is related with forensics and hacking, but I don't really know what it is. Can you tell us a bit about it and what is required to get this certification?
Yeah, sure. So it's a certified hacker forensics investigator, and it's a course from EC Council, and it was one of the first security courses I did. Just more like it looked like a lot of fun from reading the description of the course, and they had an instructor that basically trains the police themselves. So he had a lot of interesting stories to tell us while we were doing this course, and they had a practical element as well, which was really good. So we could they set up like a test crime scene, and we had to come there and secure the scene and go through the motions of securing the evidence and looking out for booby traps. How the hacker may have sabotaged something so that if you do this, then it wipes the data automatically. So it's all about teaching you how to secure a digital crime scene, collect the evidence, check what's running in active memory, things like this, just to try and get that extra evidence rather than just basically before this course was around, police used to just run in and unplug the computers and all the active connections, everything in the memory is gone. So half your evidence has disappeared. So this is just teaching them a little bit more what they should do and what they shouldn't do to try and preserve the evidence.
Great. Chani? You're on mute.
You're on mute?
Is that better?
There we go.
Yeah.
So I also got a question for you, Clive. Really functioning. Let me get this. So for me, I had to invest in different training courses to learn about different topics and find out what area of cybersecurity I want to work in. So have you ever done that, or did you always know that you wanted to work in InfoSec?
I didn't always know. I used to be happy with building out the infrastructure and helping support it. But over the years of commissioning and deploying these projects, I think I mentioned earlier already that became more and more frustrated with how security was a tick box exercise at the end, and always having to try and it would cause the whole project to be delayed because it was just impossible to secure the way the project was built. And that's when we formed the company Meta Defense Labs, and we were going to do security right from the beginning, from the ground up, safe by design. And that the more there was different fields you could go into, and there was the policy and governance side of things, which was quite interesting for me at one stage. But the more I've touched on the technical elements of that's really drawn me towards that. So I'm found myself moving more and more towards that side of things.
So I think when I first started, I wanted to know the hacking side of more. So I remember doing the ethical hacking courses, and then I wanted to know how to hack the hackers, the forensic side of things. And then I remember then realizing, actually, this is a lot of work. You need to remember all the coding stuff and the commands and everything. And you can't run a business, also know all this stuff and remember everything and keep up with the technology. That was kind of one of my challenges. So I kind of moved into audits and governance risk side of things, and also virtual CISO. which I really love now because I currently do virtual CISO for 3 SMBs, and they're all 3 different type of customers, and I really like that element. But now I kind of realize I'm getting bored of this, and I want to go back into research kind of things and more hacking. So I think that's why I asked the question whether you always knew, because you think you know what you want to do, and then you once you've done it, and then you like get bored, and then you want to do something different. Like I remember I even remember we went into physical hacking where lock picking and all these things, which is quite fun. I love the lock picking element and the RFID hacking as well. I think it's just trying out different things that makes find out that actually you enjoy certain things more than the others that you think you would love. So the next question is for Chris, I think. Didar, you want to ask?
Yes. So I have been following Chris for some time now. I watched a few of your talks in person and a few of them online. You had an incredible past. It's really, it's not like everyone else. It's pretty unique. And the journey just to becoming an army person. Could you tell us a bit about how did you manage to get to the good side of the law, and what helped? What was the process like?
Well, one of the things I think that was in my benefit when I was a kid was because security was so poor, so absolutely awful back then, and unfortunately sometimes it still is. A lot of what I was doing, I didn't actually think was a bad thing, because it was like peering into someone's open doors and open windows. But at the same time, I did get into a lot of trouble, and I never wanted to experience that type of event again. So when I had the opportunity, one of the things that I did instead of computers afterwards was I joined something called JROTC, and at my school, that's kind of like the junior army, one could say, where you get various trainings and so forth, and you get your own uniform that you have to wear to school like once a week. And so I moved up to battalion leader, and I was able to learn a lot about leadership, which is very interesting when you're trying to learn about history, the history of the military itself, and then also kids your own age. So that was a good challenge. And then when I had the opportunity, I took this military entrance exam in the US, and after I only missed one question, the Air Force was like, hey, why don't you come on over our way? And I was like, wow. So their recruitment methods were pretty simple. Do you like to travel? Yes. Do you like planes? Yes. Well, come on board and we'll get you started. And so it took me on a fascinating journey of enabling me to have the opportunity to travel the world with a huge amount of responsibility, but in a way that I was able to learn from it constantly. So since then, I've learned to try to organize chaos. And I think that's the best way to describe the military.
Thank you.
Do you still love the travel?
I'm traveling almost constantly. I just have the rare week and a half, I think, that I'm actually in Amsterdam.
That's good that you can still do that, because sometimes when you get to a point that you don't want to travel too much. Are you there yet, or are you like enjoying it still?
No, I'm still enjoying it.
That's good, yeah. So I have a question for you. So I come from I started in a corporate background from IBM, and as with big corporates, they have corporate values, culture, and ethics, guidelines, all these things. You mostly worked as an independent consultant in your career. How do you make sure your values and the companies you serve are aligned with your values?
Well, one of the things I try to do is make sure that the company that I'll be working for or with is kind of a good fit, especially when it comes to whomever is going to be working on the projects with me. And you can kind of get a sense of if corporate values that are posted on a website are actually the ones that are being represented every day through your first series of meetings. And that's just one of the things that I try to do. I also try to steer away from some more controversial projects because there's just a mismatch between myself and that organization.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that. My next question is for Clive. So you have a hacking and forensics certification. So why do you think investing in hacking skills matters in your career, and how do you go about getting those skills?
So YouTube video watching I did, you'll be amazed how much material is out there. Step by step tells you how to do everything. There's a lot of forums that where people even help each other on training on various aspects of hacking. Some forums may be more dodgy than others. That's just something that goes with the territory. And but not just hacking skills. I would say something else that's really helped is doing like the ISO courses, ISO 27001 and those kind of things, which allowed me to learn how to talk to the business, to explain things in which was really helpful for when you just done technical all your life, and now you have to suddenly speak to a board level meeting, trying to explain to them why they need security. Just telling them they really need this because of this doesn't really get the message across. When you have to explain to them, no, this is the risk, this is how much the reputational damage could cost you, and this is going to cost this much to mitigate that risk, and it can enable you to deliver something more securely, and you can. And then suddenly that message makes a lot more sense to the C-level execs, and yeah, that really helped on that aspect of that. And then when these courses out there that are for hacking, maybe they don't just do the one course or the one, don't just go down one channel the whole time, because each course that's out there, some of them are even free as well, some of them are quite cheap. They teach you different. Every instructor basically has got a different way of teaching the same problem, and you can learn different little techniques that each one uses, and maybe some of them will suit your style more, and you take what you like from each one and you make your own toolkit from that, which helped a lot for me.
Thank you.
I think
we received
questions
in the chat. Just having a quick look.
Sure.
I think I should ask this to both of our. We received one question, and Chris has already answered it from her perspective. I'm going to read the question. How would you recommend to stay updated on latest security threats, technologies, and industry best practices? What resources are available? And Chris already responded saying, I read a lot of news aggregators, and attend conferences such as B-Sides and OWASP. Thank you, Chris. Clive, how about you? How do you keep up?
So besides those already that we have regular meetings on those chapters, we also attend. I also being part of actively involved in the IC Squared London chapter. So there we have meetings every quarter, which we're now scaling up to every second month. And when you meet these people at these kind of events, it's really good you obviously have the presentation at the beginning and then the networking session at the end. And that's when you really start talking about things you've come across, and someone mentions something else and how did you do that? And then someone else says, oh no, we did it like this. And so it's really good to get the little inside edge on how some things are playing out there. And it's really good to build up your support network, because to try and do this in isolation is, you can't keep up with everything. There's so many different things happening every day, new zero-day threats coming out, new techniques, and so the ones that are really making an impact, they tend to rise to the top of these kind of meetings, and then you can find out new tips from that, and then go back and research it yourself afterwards.
I also listen to a lot of podcasts. I think I'm becoming a bit addicted to them.
Oh, what's the speed limit now?
Yeah, 7-8 hours. So to cover all of them, I listen to some of them and twice the speed, but only some of them, because I can't do that with all of them. But usually 1.5 speed is like my normal now.
Yeah, I also find myself starting to do that. You start upping the speed limit more and more and more.
Yeah, I think Clive is like 2 times. Is it 2.5 or 2 times now?
We got 2.5 on some of the.
Yeah, I don't know how he did, but I do. I'm still at 1.5. But but yes, there's some lot of books around there as well that you can buy for very cheap prices, and you can listen to them online while you're traveling on the tube or on the airplane. They're quite good. A lot of hacking books. I just finished one book while I'm on the flight, 13-hour flight, and then the book is done. It's really good. So you just start listening to it and learning new things. Something that Clive brought up was the soft skills. You could be the best hacker out there, and with all the technical skills. I mean, all of us at some point, we've been technical people. And some of the challenges we've had was how to talk tech to business. Because we always talk a lot of, buzzwords and jargon, tech jargon, and business people don't understand it. I think something I practice is that I think that I'm talking to a 5-year-old, and then try and explain it that way. So then you get somewhere, and then when you keep practicing that, it improves, and then okay, you're not talking too much tech, so that you're talking risk to the business. I have a question to Chris. Chris, how do you differentiate pen testing and security research?
Well, a pen test is something that you're actively engaged in. You might be working for a client or testing out some of your own gear. But research is a bit different, where you're trying to develop something a bit different or see if your hypothesis holds true. For instance, right now I'm researching into part of the power grid when it comes to backup power systems with batteries that have web-enabled user interfaces. And if somebody could use those, if they can find them, to then cause harm to the electric grid by being able to load dump all of their electricity as quickly as possible, which could cause an imbalance. So there's a bit of a difference.
Cool, thanks. So I want to be a researcher in maybe 3-5 years' time. So if someone's in my place, how would you recommend that I go about doing this to be a researcher? And how do you know where you cross the line to being the good one to bad guy?
Well, I would say limit it to things that you own or you have permission to test on, or things that are non-harmful. For example, a very basic scan is not something that would cross the line, as long as it's not on a very fragile industrial control system. And also, I like to see where things go. You might start out with one idea and then end up going down all these other kind of rabbit holes and finding that actually you're much more interested in another area that is a bit different, but still related to your original research.
Cool, thanks. And are you registered with any of the bug bounty programs as well? Would you recommend that?
Yes and no. I'm kind of mixed on that. The reason is not all bug bounty programs are the same. A lot of them, unfortunately, they have very strict rules, such as you can never, ever, ever in a million years ever disclose what was going on. And all of your research is also owned by them, and they hold the copyright to that. This is very strange because if you're discussing a situation where, and I like to use the word responsible or coordinated disclosure, where there's something that should be fixed, if it goes into a bug, some of these types of bug bounty programs that I mentioned, then there's no obligation for the organization to actually remediate these things. But instead, if you use coordinated disclosure with, say, a computer emergency response team, like I use some of my contacts with US Search and ICS Search, then the organization or the vendor then has an obligation to go, hey, either you fix this within a reasonable time frame, or we're going to actually publicize the issue anyway after a certain time frame has passed, which they then decide, for instance, US Cert or ICS Cert, when to actually post the information up.
Cool, thanks. Didar.
Thank you. So, Clive has also posted in the chat about Humble Bundle. I did want to talk about that as well. Humble Bundle, if you search for humblebundle.com, there are lots of great sets of books at reasonable prices, sometimes free. You just give whatever you think it's worth, and it's quite a good resource as well. And my next question is for Clive as well. So you are a CEO, and you day-to-day non-technical skills. Since becoming a CEO, how much do you see you use your technical skills, or do you find yourself more use people skills, your non-technical skills?
Yeah, so that's changed a lot as the company has grown and developed on more tech to business, and you need to be able to be understood by these people who don't know what an IP is, and trying to explain these issues to them in language they can understand. As I do various courses to be able to relate to them and see it from their point of views first, and just from doing a lot of networking with people, learning, sort of not just trying to sell them something, but just sort of asking them what's their issues, what are they dealing with, and then just listening to them really, and then from that answering how you can help them basically. And this was a long journey for me, because we can do this service, and you're just like wrapping stuff off there, and eventually you realize, oh, this person's eyes have glazed over, they've checked out a long time ago. So it was a learning experience of realizing, just learning how you talk to people with tech, and definitely technical skills have become, on that point of my job, become far less important. As I also starting to look more into the research side of things, I still have to keep my tech skills up there, so I can't forget all about it. So I have to do both, but definitely non-technical skills have become far more important than they used to be.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for Chris.
One second, I'm just going to flip off the video. It might be my groceries. 1 second.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm having technical trouble here. 1 second. Yeah, the file is not coming off. Sorry, guys. So Chris, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
She's on mute right now.
Sure. Okay, so you have few books published. Can you tell us about them, and where can we, if you want to listen or buy the books, where can we buy them? I think you're on mute. All right, sorry. So she wanted a minute, sorry. I'll go back to Clive then. So Clive, I've worked with you in so many projects pretty much. And that's probably why we decided to get married, because we tend to do all the projects and we decided, okay, why not get married? So one thing that I have seen constantly is that in every project, and I have never seen you lose your temper or and always stays calm and quiet and still, and have time to train people. You've trained so many people, including myself, and mentor your colleagues in every project and help them shine. So I think I'm also a living example of that. How do you do this?
I wish I had the magic answer to give you on that one. I think it's over many years of experience. I've learned that if you are flustered and angry or annoyed at them sarcastic answers, it doesn't help the situation. It doesn't get your message across. They just get angry with you as well, and eventually it might end up in a fight. So I've learned to try and figure out. I don't get annoyed back. I don't feed that. I try and figure out why they're like that, and try and address it like straight away if I can. And staying calm definitely helps in a tough situation where maybe there's an ongoing breach or some system is down, and if you're running around your head going crazy, then that's not going to help the situation either. So it started off like forcing the calmness, and then afterwards realizing this actually works, and then just being confident in your skills and just owning that situation. And then as far as training and mentoring colleagues, I believe in rather than leading from the front, leading from behind, and empowering the people I work around me. So I transfer my skills. It's a way for me to learn at the same time that I train them. They are learning from me at the same time. And if something happens to me or I leave that position for some reason, then it's not like there's this giant hole that suddenly has to be filled. Everyone around there should have all these skills and they should be able to run with it themselves. It also makes them far more confident in what they're doing. I don't believe in job security by keeping all the skills to yourself and becoming indispensable that way. I think that's just bullshit. And I'm not a fan of that style of some people, the way they become indispensable that way. So I don't think that builds the team up, but rather puts up roadblocks. If they suddenly disappear or move jobs, then you've got a big problem in their team suddenly. And that's something I try and avoid in all the projects I've worked in.
Cool, thank you.
Resilience. Building resilience into the teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll ask another question. Didar, do you want to ask your questions?
Yeah. So I want to ask this question to both of our speakers. How do you ensure values and ethics in your company?
Okay, so this is something very core and fundamental, I feel, especially in our field. You have to have good values and ethics because you need to build trust with your customers. I mean, they're going to entrust you to look at their network, rip it apart, find what's wrong, and tell them how to fix it. And you could come across some very sensitive information while doing this as well. So they need to feel at ease and comfortable with you and trust that you're going to do what you say later and, I don't know, do something dodgy with that information you found. So I think it's all about ensuring those values and ethics are followed in your company. And we have, that's also partly why CISO Exec came about, was to get those emotionally intelligent cybersecurity leaders so that they can follow and those values are real to them, then they know it works.
So it's the people and process.
It's people. Yeah, it's definitely people over process, over tech. You buy some fancy tech, it's only as good as your weakest link, which unfortunately at the moment is the people. And we need to change that situation. We need to make people the strongest link.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think
I'm going to continue with another question for you once we.
Chris, are you ready?
Chris is back.
Yeah, groceries right in the process of being delivered. If I captured, sorry about that, the last question. I've been in situations where I've been offered fantastic things to do certain things for large organizations. Unfortunately, I found out we're not very cool. So, yes. This is how groceries get delivered in the Netherlands.
Doesn't matter.
It's okay.
It's a beautiful day.
There we go.
Kijk.
Thank you.
Hey.
Dankjewel.
Hoe zullen jullie een beetje
All right, cheers.
I wanted to mention about these values on CISO also. Our values are trust, integrity, and commitment, same as our company's values. I think trust is at the core of everything we do. Although we operate on zero trust, but trust is something that is the fundamental thing to what we do and how we build trust with our clients, stakeholders, partners, and starting at home really. So it's a key element for us and the CISO as well. So Chris, do you hear us okay now?
Yes.
So we.
But I do have groceries now. With the thing, yeah, sometimes I like the idea of operating on zero trust. I definitely agree with that because when you are doing certain contract work or what have you, you're not going to most likely be very familiar with that organization or the situation. Off mute? I think you're on mute.
Sorry,
Chris,
I was saying there's echo coming out.
Hold on.
So
we'll try this.
oh,
No
that's
echo?
much better. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So you don't always know the situation you're going to get into, and being hesitant when you are coming into a particular situation, especially for instance, when I deal with some higher level incidents, there have been occasions where I have quickly found out in the first day that the organization that had started to contract me wasn't doing the most, we'll say, not everything that those particular organizations were very legal. Sometimes I might be dealing with certain sanctioned countries or things of that nature. So I do like to operate on that zero trust or very little trust to feel things out as much as possible before doing something that could aid a situation like that.
Yeah. And how do you ensure? Because you don't know about it before you go into the situation, then you discover it, and it must be quite a hard situation to handle. Must be very sensitive.
Well, one of the ways I do is when I go in, I've got some very specific terms that I put forward. And one of those terms is if there's any particular possible illegal activity, then I reserve the right to share that with law enforcement, for example.
Good. So you have your preventive measure, your contract, your terms of business with them. It's great.
At least I try. Try to cover everything, you know. Still, I got my groceries delivered early today.
Happens, it's life. I think Chani also had a question for you. And she's on mute. Chani.
Sorry, I keep doing this. I know you have a few books published, Chris. Could you tell us about them and where can we buy them if you want to try it out?
Certainly. Currently, they are for sale on Amazon, but I'm looking to find another way to get them out there because it's not the easiest thing to deal with sometimes. But the first book was about a bit of a journey of using particular targets, especially the Panama Papers law firm Fonseca, and taking the readers through the different types of tools that can be used for open source intelligence gathering or reconnaissance, not destructive testing, but finding all the different types of information that you can on a particular organization, especially one such as that. And the latest book is called Hack the World with Open Source Intelligence Gathering, and it gives an overview of digital security across IT, IoT, and ICS, with focus on the technical protocols and a lot of the risks that can be associated with each and every one of these, so that an organization nowadays, most are running a little bit of everything. And even companies that don't think they are have things like an elevator, which is a building control system. And these things, believe it or not, if they're connected to the internet, even remotely for a technician to go into, they can then be modified or ransomed depending on the type of attack. So it's to give a good overview of some of the technical stuff, but also the risks associated with it and how easy it is sometimes to find these systems.
So what level of technical knowledge does a reader needs to have?
I would say being able to use the internet, because a lot of these things you can find using advanced search techniques. It's to me, I don't think it's something that is super advanced. Another thing is familiarity with TCP/IP networking itself, and then an understanding about networking total.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I have another question for you. This is around emotional intelligence. What are your thoughts on emotional intelligence cybersecurity leadership?
Well, I think you need it because, at least from my experience, a good leader needs to be able to, I think Clive was saying earlier, when there's an incident, when there is a problem, you need to be able to be a bit of a pillar of strength as much as possible and calm during these different types of things. You also want to allow your people to grow whilst at the same time understanding the rest of the business, because security, unless you run a security firm, most organizations are not in the business of security. So you need to understand that portion of it. And then at the same time, not everyone is 100% perfect or correct. So you also have to leave room for good, healthy discussions when something goes awry a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's, somebody said that it's all about emotions, but you can't be emotional. Can't remember who said that. Didar, you want to ask your next question?
Yeah. So I have a question for Clive. He's already partly replied to this, but you sponsor and you are one of the foundation blocks of CISO Exec. Why do you believe in CISO Exec?
So originally, it sounded like a good idea to me, and Chani obviously was a force of nature behind that, and I went along for the ride. But after the first boot camp concluded, and I saw the transformation of those people that were on the course, I mean, we all had wet eyes on that last award ceremony. It was just amazing, because on Monday when they started off, everyone was like arms crossed and looking down and couldn't even get a yes or no answer out of them. They were so shy. And by Friday, after they've gone through all the tech stuff and the self-development, the personal development, and the leadership courses, and all the various people skills that we try to impart to them, they were so full of energy that a whole room full of hands went up, like, oh, they want to do a talk. And so we we had to pick and choose really, because there was so many people that wanted to do it. And when they gave those few minute speeches each, I think we've got them on YouTube somewhere. You can just see they spoke from the heart, and that just convinced me. Yeah, we got to do this more. This is brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks. I got a question for Clive again. Why is pen testing important, and how often does companies conduct pen tests?
Okay, so it depends on the company, really. You get the tick box exercise people who are doing it like once a year and try and get away with the bare minimum. And then you got other companies they've got red teams, blue teams, purple teams these days, doing everything sort of on an ongoing basis. Most companies sit somewhere in between those two. And I would say the reason it's important is if you're not doing a pen test, you don't know really what you're exposed to out there. You don't know, is there holes in your website or not, or your application? How could it be subverted beyond what your developers maybe think is possible? And if you just have your own internal team looking at it the whole time, they maybe been looking at it for so long from their point of view that they couldn't even consider it could be used in some other way. And if you bring in an external team with fresh eyes to come and try and compromise it basically and see what they can do with it, it shouldn't be able to be done. You'll be amazed sometimes some of the things we come across that the client never thought was even possible. I mean, we had one where they gave us what we thought was admin credentials. They told us it was to the site, and we had to try and see what we could do. And at the end of the test, we gave them the report, and we basically managed to bypass every vulnerability we could exploit. And later on, they told us, oh, they were testing us actually, and they hadn't even given us admin rights. So we'd accomplished more than their current pen test had done with less rights. So that was quite satisfying to hear at the end, but also opened their eyes up a lot, because they did not expect us to find anything really. They thought we were just going to rubber stamp it for them basically, and they had a whole bunch of work to do after that.
That's just great. That's just shows how important it is to have fresh
and also,
pair of eyes.
sorry, go on. It is, and also just thinking about how it's again risk management, isn't it? Trying to find out what your critical systems are, and then deciding whether it's a pen test or a vulnerability scan, or how often you do your pen test. Are you going to have red teaming, blue teaming, or vulnerability management? I think it's again all down to risk management. Sorry, Didar, do you want to continue with the next one?
Yes, so we have like 4 or 5 minutes left. Shall I continue with our questions, or do we want to do a wrap up after?
Oh,
Maybe I can ask the next question and we can then wrap up.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to ask Chris, why do you think the security research is important, and how can companies support security researchers?
I think security research is very important because it's one of these things where it allows you to go deeper than, say, what a vendor or a manufacturer or a web development team thought were possible, but things, because of the risk, because we're talking a lot about risk, it's very important. If you have a situation where you think that your website and infrastructure are fantastic, but then somebody finds that it's connected to a database of all of your executives and their various movements for trusted journalist access, and there's no authentication, but yet those executives, the board that you work for, some of them have been assassinated. And this is something that happened actually while I was at Aramco. And looking beyond and trying to jiggle the door, so to speak, because depending on your organization, your threat profile might be just low-hanging fruit, or it might be a nation state. And you need to look at it in that point of view. And one of the ways that organizations can support security researchers is to firstly, have a vulnerability disclosure program, a secure way that somebody can report a problem. Because you would want to know if you're on vacation, for example, and somebody broke your window and the rain was being let in. And there needs to be a way for them to contact you. Because if you're getting contacted by a security researcher like myself or many other people that I know, they're also giving you fantastic value for money, because in most cases, they're just looking for, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for reporting. They're not looking for, and you need to give me X amount of dollars. They're just looking to try to do something good to make the cyber world a little bit safer.
Free pen tests.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think not a lot of companies see the importance of responsible disclosure and vulnerability disclosure programs. You know, when someone go and try to report a problem, they treat them as a baddie, which shouldn't be the case. And I think in Western countries they are opening up to that, but some other parts of the world, they're still in that mindset where if someone tried to point out a vulnerability, then they're the bad person. I've had this few times where I would try to go and disclose something that is not right. Then, you know, they don't think it's important. They don't see the value of how you do your risk. Again, it's another topic, I think, whole new topic of discussing about responsible disclosure and vulnerability disclosure programs. I think we kind of reached the time, so shall we just ask the audience if they got any questions? Do you guys have any questions around?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi all. So just to introduce myself, I'm Luke. Chani and Clive at the last chapter event. I just want to ask a question with regard to it's kind of like career progression, but for all the experienced guys, I just want to ask a quick question. If you were to go back maybe to the start of your career, say 2-3 years experience, what would you have done differently, and what do you encourage young professionals within cybersecurity to do in order to progress?
Clive, do you want to answer?
Yeah, I'll take it. Thanks, Luke. So what would I give my younger self advice? So they don't basically trust in yourself. Look at yourself as a leader, even if you're not a manager, and inspire that change in people around you. And don't just be the yes person that just agrees with everyone to try and make less friction. Look into things yourself. Go and experiment with yourself and find out what works for you, and try and transfer those skills to people around you. You'll find you'll learn a lot about yourself while doing this, and it'll help you grow as a person and in your career as well. People will start looking up to you, and then you'll maybe become that manager you're trying to become maybe.
Chris, would you like
Okay, thank you, Clive.
Yeah, great one, Clive. So look, one of the things that I would do is when I was starting to start my professional career, when I would attend conferences and various groups, I did not interact very much because I treated it very much as this is work, everything is serious, I have to take notes, I have to build a presentation after this, and I was just in and out. And it wasn't until one particular year that I was at DEF CON, and I used to actually wear a 3-piece suit to these types of events. I finally, I couldn't get into a bunch of talks because the lines were really long. So I just sat in the lobby going, oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then people started talking to me and I started talking back. And then I started to realize that this isn't just a bunch of, basically business meetings. A lot of this is building a network with people that are happy to share information, and vice versa. It becomes a two-way street. And then building on that network, it also helps progress your career. because then when they hear about a good position that might be a good fit, for example, they'll go, hey, would you mind sending in your CV for this, that, or the other? Or in worst case scenario, if you're in the middle of a major incident and you're like, oh my gosh, I know a person who would know a little bit how to help, and you can call that network, and all of a sudden something that seems very, I feel like dying, to this is manageable. And so I definitely recommend trying to join in person or virtually the actual community that is around you.
I think that's a
Thank you.
really good
Thank you.
point. People. I think people skills are so important in what we do in our life. It could be a lot of tech involved, but I would also agree with both of you. You know, if I were to go back 2 years, I think I would develop more on people skills and my emotional intelligence skills, and also building my network, getting to know more people, building relationships, building trust. Because end of the day, that's who you rely on when something goes wrong or when you need help. And emotional intelligence also very important, because it teaches you how to react in a difficult situation. You know, it's all about whatever happens, whatever someone does to you, or you know, how we react is the key element in emotional intelligence. If you can control that, you know, the way you interact and react to that situation, I think you will be in a better place to handle difficult situations as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So as artificial intelligence has become more and more proficient at what they do, and eventually they're going to start replacing more and more of your job, you're going to have to differentiate yourself somehow, and your people skills, your emotional intelligence is where it's going to give you the edge, and you're going to bring that value to your organization that way. And if you don't develop those people skills and you're just pretty much running like a robot, yes, an AI is going to very easily replace you.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? So I got questions to both of you. As security leaders, what is your message to the community? Chris, do you want to go first?
Sure. I would say determination and persistence, while still recognizing a certain ethical responsibility.
Clive. Thanks, Chris.
Sorry, I thought I'd gone on mute there. I would say, yes, you need to keep that integrity out there. It's the one thing that differentiates you from a criminal. If you're better than them, and it just takes one slip up, and your reputation's destroyed. So have that integrity and have that good ethics, and be a leader in your community. Other people to follow the same path as you.
Thank you. Didar, would you like to say things to that?
Yeah, just this year I finally find myself being myself anywhere I go, at work, at home, and it's just helped me so much. I feel like myself, and I do more. And I wish everyone can just take that step to just be yourself.
Yeah, I think passion and being yourself, I think, is really important. For me, it's been what drives me, you know, doing what you love doing, and also trying to inspire others and sharing knowledge.
How about you? One message to the community.
Me? Oh, right. Sorry. I was just saying that, see, I'm not, I'm still trying to think about my holiday.
And it's 11 p.m. there, so we cannot really blame you.
So I think be the change you want to be, and not wait for somebody else to come and do it for you. Be a leader, own it, and take responsibility in your actions, and share knowledge and inspire others, and also add value to the community. So the more add value to your company, add value to your networks, and also add value to your community, I think that would then help you build your career as well as your skill set. And
Great.
yeah, that's pretty much how I want to do things. I think we've run out of time now. Do we have any questions from the audience? Cool. So thank you guys so much, Chris, Clive. I think it was a really interesting discussion, and I really enjoyed it. I think we should do this more often. And if you like to stay in touch, join this call, please do. So we run this every Tuesday, third Tuesday of the month. And also share the CISO platform details with your networks, get people joining. I think what we want to do is create a supportive community and a global platform, so that we can then address a lot of the challenges within our industry as well. So the next CISO meetup we have one in January that's going to be in Colombo. So if there's anyone who's in Colombo, give us a shout. It's on the 14th of January in Jai Hilton that we're having a cyber security and leadership morning, followed by lunch. So we just had a discussion with our sponsor who's going to be arranging a very fancy meetup. Looking forward to it. A buffet lunch at the Hilton. And the next meetup is going to be in London. That's in February. We are just trying to finalize the dates. So Tech UK has agreed to sponsor us. So that's going to be a very interesting meetup, as we got quite a few good speakers lined up. And so the monthly mentoring call will still happen every month. And so please join us. And if you're in, in London, come and join, say hi, or if you're in Sri Lanka, say hi. And if you want to run this platform anywhere else, just give us a shout. This, like I said, this is open give back platform. I can't even say the words today. Open give back platform. Yeah, and I would like to wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Holidays. Hope you have a good break. So this is my first holiday for the year, so that's why I think I'm really excited. I can't focus. But yeah, I hope you all have a good time, and we'll see you again in New Year. Didar, over to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.